The Little Match Girl is a fairy tale by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. The story tells of a poor little girl selling matches in the cold winter and dying on New Year's Eve. Please listen to the story of the Little Match Girl on the channel, Bear's Little Storybook. It was bitterly cold. Snow was falling. It was already dark. Tonight was New Year's Eve. In the bitter cold, a little girl with bare head and bare feet was groping her way through the darkness. When she left home, she had worn cloth shoes, but what good were they? They were her mother's, too big for her, and she had lost both of them when she ran across the street as two horse-drawn carriages were speeding by. The first one was crushed by a horse-drawn carriage, then stuck to the wheel with snow. It was gone. The second one was picked up by a boy who laughed loudly and threw it into the air. He even told the little girl that he would keep the shoe to make a cradle for his dog later, so I had to walk barefoot, my feet turning red then purple from the cold. My old apron was full of matches, and I was carrying an extra bag in my hand. I tried to find a place where there were many people passing by, but it was so cold that passers-by hurried by quickly, paying no attention to her sales pitch. All day long she sold nothing and no one gave her even a penny. The poor little girl, hungry and cold, still wandered the streets. Snowflakes clung to her long hair, which hung in strands down her back, but she didn't notice. Every house's windows were brightly lit, and the streets were filled with the aroma of roasted goose. It was New Year's Eve after all. I recalled years past when my kind grandmother was still alive, and I too celebrated New Year's Eve at home. But death came and took her away. Our family fortune was lost, and we had to leave our lovely house with ivy climbing around it, where I had lived warm and cozy days, to huddle in a dark corner, always hearing insults and curses. I sat huddled in a corner between two houses, one of which was set back a little. I pulled my legs up close to my body, but I felt colder and colder. However, I couldn't go home without selling a few boxes of matches or getting someone to give me a coin to take home. My father would surely beat me. Besides, it was just as cold at home. My father and I lived on the top floor right under the roof, and even though we stuffed rags into the cracks in the walls, the wind still whistled through the house. By now my hands were stiff. Oh, if only I could strike a match to warm myself a little. If only I could take out a match and strike it against the wall to warm my fingers. Finally, I took a chance and struck a match. The match caught fire instantly. The flame was blue at first, gradually turning green, then white, then bright red around the wooden stick, shining brightly and pleasing to the eye. I held my hands over the match, which glowed like hot coals. Wow, what a magical light. I felt as though I were sitting before an iron stove with shiny brass decorations. Inside the stove, the fire burned beautifully and emitted a gentle warmth. How pleasant. My hands are warming themselves over the fire. The thumb holding the match is burning hot. Wow. When snow covers the ground and the north wind blows fiercely, sitting like that for hours on end in the bitter cold of winter, in front of a stove, is such a pleasure. As soon as I stretched my legs to warm them, the fire went out and the stove disappeared. I sat there holding the burnt-out matchstick. I felt numb all over, and suddenly remembered that my father had sent me out to sell matches. Tonight I would surely be scolded when I got home. I struck the second match and it lit up brightly. The wall seemed to turn into a curtain of gauze. I could see right into the house. The table was set. The tablecloth was pure white, and on the table were precious porcelain bowls and plates, and there was even a roasted goose. But the most miraculous thing was that the goose jumped out of the dish carrying a knife, a fork, and a spoon stuck on its back, and advanced toward the little girl. Then, the matchstick went out. Before her eyes were only thick, cold walls. Reality replaced the dream. There was no lavish dinner table, only a deserted, freezing street covered in white snow, with a bitter wind blowing and a few passers-by in warm clothes hurrying to their appointments, completely indifferent to the poverty of the little match girl. Reality replaced the dream. There was no lavish dinner table, only deserted, freezing streets covered in white snow, a bitter wind blowing, and a few passers-by in warm clothes hurrying to their destinations, completely indifferent to the poverty of the little match girl. She struck the third match. Suddenly, she saw a Christmas tree appear. This tree was larger and more splendidly decorated than the one she had seen last year through the window of a wealthy merchant's house. Thousands of candles shone brightly, sparkling on the fresh green branches, and many colorful pictures like those displayed in shop windows appeared before the child's eyes. She reached out her hands toward the tree, but the match went out. All the candles flew up and turned into stars in the sky. Someone must have died, the child thought, because her grandmother, the only kind person to her, had died long ago and used to say, "When a star changes its position, a soul flies up to God." She struck another match against the wall. A green light spread around, and the child clearly saw her grandmother smiling at her. "Grandma," the child cried out, "take me with you. I know that when the match goes out, you will disappear like the stove, the roast goose, and the Christmas tree just now. But please don't leave me here. Before, when you hadn't yet gone to the merciful Lord, how happy we were together. Back then you told me that if I was good, I would see you again. Grandma, I beg you, ask the merciful Lord to let me come back to you. I'm sure he won't refuse." The matchstick flickered out and the bright illusion on the baby's face also vanished. So the child struck all the remaining matches in the box. She wanted to hold her grandmother back. The matches lit up one after another, as bright as daylight. Never before had she seen her grandmother so large and beautiful. The old woman took her hand and the two flew high, higher and higher, no longer threatened by hunger, cold, or sorrow. They had gone to God. The next morning, snow still covered the ground, but the sun rose bright and shining in the pale blue sky. Everyone happily left their homes. On that cold morning, in a corner of the wall, people saw a little girl with rosy cheeks and a smile on her lips. She had died of cold on New Year's Eve. The first day of the new year appeared on the corpse of the baby sitting among the matchboxes, one of which had been completely burned out. People said to each other, "She must have wanted to warm herself." But no one knew the wonders she had seen, especially the glorious scene when the grandmother and granddaughter flew up to welcome the joys of the new year.